To me, I look at the AFC South as a really intriguing division in the sense that any of the four teams, if a couple of things go right and a couple of players play a little bit better, could potentially win that division. Like in all reality, the Colts could certainly win that division, even though you worry about Andrew Luck being able to stay healthy for a full season. Heck, we're talking about ankle injuries right now. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they bring in Nick Foles. If that defense plays more like the defense of 2017 and you get a little bit better on the offensive side of the ball, they could win that division. The Houston Texans can win that division. Hell, the Tennessee Titans could win the division. Any of these four teams with a good draft class and some lucky breaks could end up being the divisional champions this year. So when I look at this draft, like more so than in other divisions, I think the draft is critical for the South because the team that does the best there, it might give them a leg up in terms of winning the division. Which is why I thought it was interesting to start off with the Tennessee Titans, because here's a team that has Marcus Mariota in a contract year. You need to find out if he's that dude. Signs are pointing to no, but you still have a chance. Like, he could potentially be. It's unlikely, but he could in theory. So with that said, you would think you would want to do as much as you possibly can to help him. And it's really interesting that you spend a top 20 first-round pick on a defensive lineman that is immensely talented in Jeffrey Simmons from Mississippi State, but ultimately a kid in Jeffrey Simmons from Mississippi State who had the previous off-the-field concern a couple of years ago, but maybe teams are willing to overlook that, but also tore his ACL back in February. So there's a very good chance that he plays little to none at all in his rookie year of 2019. So it seems kind of weird that when you've really got to find out with Mariota whether he's that dude or not, that you would devote a first-round pick to a guy who's very unlikely to play much, if at all, this year and provide very little from a contribution standpoint. Now, you could look at that big picture and you could say, well, with Jeffrey Simmons, if he would have been healthy, maybe he's a top 5 or top 10 talent, so therefore an ACL injury, maybe he does miss most of his rookie year, but then he comes back, he's healthy, he's a stud. It was worth the top 20 pick. It was worth waiting the year. I do not disagree with that notion. Like, long term, it made a ton of sense to take him. It was just interesting because in the short term, it doesn't really help you a whole lot, and the Titans needed some help in the short term. I think A.J. Brown in round 2 could most certainly help them. He was a top 3 wide receiver in this draft class to me. I love A.J. Brown's game. I think he can do nice things in the league, and I think he will be a nice second option in that passing game for Marcus Mariota. Following that up with Nate Davis, the offensive guard, in line 3, getting some more depth and talent on the interior of that offensive line that the Titans probably needed a little bit. I really, really liked the pick of Amani Hooker in round 4, the safety from Iowa. I think there's a chance long-term that he'll be a future starter. It's just when you look at this draft class, it's really hard to grade it, I think, in year 1, because what are you actually going to get out of your first-round pick? Immensely talented, but he's got a bad knee. He's recovering from that. The Houston Texans, you look at them and you say, they better hope Titus Howard pans out, because they gambled on a small school offensive tackle in round 1. Now, that said, if you're going to be gambling on a position and you are the Houston Texans, it sure better be on the offensive line, because you have got to try and get better protection and better help in front of Deshaun Watson. You have to. This is not a choice. You must. Otherwise, he'll be lucky to play another 3 or 4 years in the damn league, because he's going to get rocked. He's going to get killed. It's just interesting that with some of the other names that were still on the board in terms of offensive tackles, that Howard ended up being the guy. But that said, the athletic upside is there. You might go through some growing pains as he adjusts to the speed and the complexity of the NFL game, but he could potentially pan out. You got Lonnie Johnson in round 2. They came back and took Sharpring, the offensive tackle from NIU, in round number 3. Again, trying to help the trenches, help to better protect I almost said Mariota Cripes. It's too late. Deshaun Watson. I liked the Kahale Waring pick, the tight end. I really had a high grade on him, higher than I thought I was going to have on him when I evaluated him. I think he's a guy that could bring a little bit long-term down the road from a projection standpoint at the tight end position. The Indianapolis Colts, no first-round pick. They peeled back out of round 1, ended up with 3 second-round picks. Rock Ya-Sin, that name is badass. It's awesome. Like if I wanted to name somebody, I had a son, a masculine son, and I wanted to name him because I wanted him to be a football player, like Rock Ya-Sin! I hear it sounds badass. Say it with me. Rock Ya-Sin! It's badass. Let's hope he plays like a badass in the NFL if you're a Colts fan. Then Banogu, the edge rusher, a team again that needed some help and talent still on the defensive side of the ball. I liked quite a bit the Paris Campbell pick, the wide receiver from Ohio State. When you're the Colts, you can't just get by on T.Y. Hilton forever. Paris Campbell is one of those guys. He doesn't have a lot in the route running repertoire, but he also comes from an Ohio State system that doesn't do the best job of putting wide receivers in the best positions to succeed. Like if you look at Michael Thomas in the NFL now for the Saints, you say he should have been a top 10 pick. The talent is there and da-da-da-da-da. But he ended up being a late second-round pick in his draft class because, in part, he played at Ohio State, and they just don't do a great job under Urban Meyer with their wide receivers, or they didn't anyways when he was a coach. You look at the rest of that class, a lot of resources invested on the defensive side of the ball, which I guess you could definitely argue makes sense. If a couple of these guys pan out, then again, it was a really good draft class for general manager Chris Ballard. And based off of the success of what you had with last year's draft class, not just Quentin Nelson, but you got Darius Leonard in round number 4, and some of the other guys you got that were able to contribute right away. Like you look at this and you say, if this draft class is good and produces 3 guys that can contribute immediately, and Andrew Luck is healthy, the Colts probably have to be the favorites in the division. At least I would think anyways. I think the team that had the best draft class, though, was the Jacksonville Jaguars. In some ways, this kind of reminded me of 2016 a little bit, where Jalen Ramsey was a top 5 talent, and they ended up getting him at pick number 5. And then Miles Jack, who also was a top 5-ish level talent, had some concerns about his knees, and as a result, he dropped into round 2, where the Jaguars got him there. I look at this and you say Josh Allen was viewed by a lot of people as a top 3 or top 5 talent in this draft class. The Jaguars got him at number 7. Sure, edge rusher was not the biggest need in the world, especially with Ngakoue there, but the bottom line is, can you really ever have too many edge rushers in the NFL? And Josh Allen, was he too solid of a prospect to pass up on? And then turning right back around in round 2 and getting Jawan Taylor, the offensive tackle from Florida. Like, to me, if there weren't concerns about the knee injury, he probably should have been the first offensive tackle taken in this draft. To be able to get him where they did in round number 2 was really, really good work for the Jags. And then flipping around in round 3 and getting Oliver, the tight end, you're talking about a guy here that I think has the potential to be at least a mid-level starter at the tight end position. You got him again in the 3rd round pick, and he could do a little bit more than that. But really the strength of this Jaguars draft class to me is the combination of Josh Allen and Jawan Taylor. If they get something out of somebody else like a Raquel Armstead, the running back from Texas A&M. What did I say? Texas A&M? God damn, it is too late, man. I am just all over the damn place. I'm sorry, guys. It's fucking up. But anyways, Armstead could be a guy that you could look to contribute in some sub-packages. But really, like, you look at it, if you're talking about Josh Allen plays to the level that people are projecting him as, Jawan Taylor be healthy, play to the level that he was projected as, this is going to be a really good draft class again for the Jaguars, somewhat similar to their 2016 class that eventually put them in a position to win their division in 2017.